Hello, this is David from davidcliveprice.com, and this is the podcast edition of this week's e-zine, Japanese Business Culture, Lost in Translation. World leaders at the G8 summit 2 years ago praised the Japanese Premier Shinzo Abe's Abenomics, his proposals for relaunching the Japanese economy and opening up Japan to more foreign investment. It sounded great at the time, for Japan's aging population and for its underemployed young people, for the Japanese consumer and for foreign companies and investors. After all, Japan's nominal GDP is still larger than that of the UK and Germany combined. However, a word of caution is necessary. The Japanese market and Japanese business culture are notoriously difficult for Westerners to penetrate and do not provide an easy platform on which to build long-term success. Sometimes even people who have lived and worked in the country complain that doing business in Japan is like trying to read emoticons without knowing what they mean. You're never quite sure what's going on in a business meeting, presentation, or negotiation, and you aren't allowed to ask because you won't get a straight answer. You might not get an answer at all. Personal dignity or face is very important to the Japanese, and this has particular relevance to decision making. Face-saving tactics are often used in business to avoid giving a clear, logical response to proposals. This gives the Japanese side time to consider proposals and to wait until a personal relationship is established. Non-verbal techniques to avoid responses include a hissing sound made by the indrawn breath, vaguely worded and evasive questions, and a love of paradox. There is even a Japanese word for this, harigei, literally the art of the stomach. This oblique and largely instinctive behavior is a way of buying time in negotiations and also of avoiding the disharmony created by giving straight yes-no replies to proposals or questions. This respect for order and harmony is also reflected in the way that the Japanese come to decisions. There's a special word for this, nemoashi. Nemoashi is loosely translated as spade work and is a gardening term meaning literally washing around or uncovering the roots before transplanting a tree. In the process, each part of the root system is cared for individually and made ready for the upcoming change. In the corporate world, nemowashi means that each part of the organization can express itself and have its needs addressed through direct consultations and one-on-one meetings. In other words, consensus is reached at small meetings before the larger meeting when the final decision is made. Foreign companies operating in the Japanese market, whether for the first time or in long-term partnership with a Japanese counterpart, must understand the nemowashi process that usually takes place before a formal meeting or after a proposal. They must also be prepared for the process to be time-consuming and not always easy to follow. A further refinement is provided by the Japanese respect for hierarchy. Senior Japanese executives expect to be informed of new proposals before an official meeting. If they only learn about a proposal for the first time at the meeting, they may feel that they've been left out. Almost inevitably, they will then reject the proposal for that reason alone. It is therefore vitally important for foreign business people to approach senior executives individually or through their Japanese partners in the company before the meeting takes place. This will provide an opportunity for them to introduce the proposal beforehand and, above all, personally. They can then estimate the Japanese boss's possible reaction and perhaps obtain some input. This process is all part of the great Nemawashi enterprise. With cultural conundrums like this, it's no wonder that many foreign business people in Japan feel their efforts are lost in translation. But they shouldn't be downhearted. With a little effort and some lateral thinking, they too can take part in these time-honored processes and achieve satisfactory results. I'd love to hear from you if you have tips or comments about doing business in Japan or in other parts of Asia. You can leave them at my blog, www.davidcliveprice.com/blog. And of course, please subscribe if you want more on-the-ground intel like this. Just add yourself to the subscription box on www.davidcliveprice.com. And you can also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.